I may have done some things that an activist might have done, but I really consider myself just a businessman. You've got to let people live their own lives as they want to live them. And that's the maximum of the activism that I believe in. And I will fight for that right and continue to speak out whenever someone asks me. If they don't ask me, I don't tell them.
So describing Marty in one word is absolutely impossible because you can't describe a man of this scope in one word.
Simply amazing and visionary.
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 My mentor, my best friend, my business partner, and a father figure for me.
Marty was like a father.
Like a father to me.
We had a personal father-son relationship.
Charismatic.
He didn't take no lightly.
He was committed to living life on his own terms.
Marty to me is authentic.
He certainly did influence me and I think made me a better person.
He was really the glue of the family.
He is a walking encyclopedia. You didn't need Google when you had Marty.
Soul affirming.
He's too much for words.
I'd say Marty is kind of a connector.
He was the best. He was bulletproof.
Larger than life.
Marty was my hero. From the time he was very young, probably 8 or 9, he started living his life his way. Born and raised in Brooklyn, he was smarter than most anyone around him, and even at that age, he knew it. As a little kid, he'd take the subway in and he'd go to Yankees games instead of going to school. He graduated from high school when he was 16. The reason he wasn't 17 is because he hadn't been to school much and they were actually gonna hold him back. The teacher said, no, I am not having him in my class again. So actually, he skipped a year because none of the teachers wanted him.
So Marty comes to DU. He barely had enough money in his pocket to cover his first semester. He joins a Jewish fraternity with a lot of kids who grew up very wealthy, and Marty really was able to take advantage of that situation, specifically at the poker table. He literally paid his tuition at the poker table.
After he graduated from DU, he started working for Douglas Aircraft in California.
He would pop in any time of the day or night and head straight for the refrigerator.
He was a character of all characters. Smartest man I ever met. He was a real rocket scientist. Maybe some people don't know this.
You could say he was a pioneer in artificial intelligence because he helped design programs for the missiles and where they would land. Unbelievable.
He hated it. He hated it.
But the one thing he got while he was in California was a broker's license, a real estate broker's license. And I'm not sure why he did it, but he did it.
And he said, well, forget about real estate in LA, forget about the aerospace industry. I'm gonna focus on Denver. And that's where it started.
Late 1960s, he's armed with a real estate broker's license, and he somehow hustles a client who asks him to find a factory so that he can manufacture Formica cabinets. And again, Marty, being street smart, in addition to being book smart, thinks, you know what?
Thought rather than look on multi-list, I'll try to find a bartender who knew an area that I thought would be well suited for this function. Walked into this place.
It's called the Foxhole. And he goes up to the bartender and says, I'm looking for real estate.
Some real estate? He said, right here.
He's like, I don't understand what you're saying. He's like, buy my bar. You can buy my bar. It's right here. Marty thinks to himself,
I'm not looking for a bar. I'm looking for a kitchen cabinet factory location.
But you know, it's distressed real estate. It's downtown Denver. And he does some numbers in his head. He says, I'll tell you what, I'll buy it for $33,000. And the bartender says, can you make it $33,500? And they shake on it.
When he had his hand out, the keys were in it. Handed me the keys, walked to the coat rack, walked out of the place, and never set foot in there again. I turned to the 5 people in the bar and said, I guess the next round's on me. I think I just bought this place.
It was your basic railroad, blue-collar worker, plate lunch that have a beer sort of place. And so Marty sold it a few times, and invariably, after he sold it, it would go out of business because people would buy a bar for the wrong reasons. They'd drink all the profits. And as the landlord, it would end up back in his hands.
So a gentleman comes along, and he's a lawyer, and he wants to rent the bar. And Marty's thinking, why would a lawyer want to rent the Foxhole? This makes no sense. So Marty goes into the bar.
Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore. All my nice wooden paneling had been painted black. All the lights had been removed and replaced with black lights. Hanging from the ceiling was lots of whips and chains.
And Marty realizes this lawyer is closeted gay, and this is going to be a gay bar.
The parking lot was absolutely full. And I thought to myself, why didn't I know about this?
Marty didn't think this was weird or inappropriate or not in line with the times. He said,
the next time it comes back into his hands, he's going to turn it into a gay bar and clean it up and do it right.
And sure enough, a year or so later, he starts missing rent payments. The lawyer who owns it, Marty says to the guy, look, instead of coming after you for your rent payments, I'll take over the bar. And the lawyer says, great.
And that's how he came to start the Foxhole on his own.
Across the street was a yellow cab garage, and Marty came to me and he says, Neil, what would you say if we put in a high-class nightclub in this property across the street? If you can come up with the money, then you can become my partner in the Foxhole and a partner here, 50-50. I said, okay. So that's when we built Tracks, the nightclub. From then on, the story just exploded.
Marty was all about creating a party.
Tracks was nondescript for the most part until you walked in. It was by far the best dance venue in the city.
When they opened Tracks, I thought they were crazy. It was a gold mine.
It was the place everyone went to be themselves. It was always crowded. Tracks was the trendsetter.
I think what Marty was able to accomplish culturally through Tracks is just a place that, celebrated you, where straight people could be comfortable, where gay people would be comfortable, people who didn't know what their orientation was and were discovering themselves. It was just a place where you could have fun and dance.
He took on challenges that he really never acknowledged to a lot of people. He and Neil had a hard time, obtaining financing, because of what I would say at the time was a fearful opportunity.
And I think he loved being part of not just a great business, but really a movement of inclusion. He always said the Foxhole and subsequently Tracks are gay bars for everyone. They're not gay men's bars. They're not gay white men's bars. These are gay bars for everyone.
It was impact. It defined the acceptance of the gay community in Denver.
Tracks would not have been as successful as it was if Marty hadn't had the unwavering support of his wife, Kay.
She was the best thing that ever happened to Marty.
Kay and Lisa and Linda have all been supportive over the years.
We were always on board with whatever Marty wanted to do. I just figured everyone had a dad who had a gay bar.
Kay was always willing to do anything that needed to be done. She was running around doing many things that involved taking care of Marty, but also most famously for the food business. We would try to get somebody to just have some food available, especially over at the Foxhole. And they would always mess it up, and it was just like, it was such an easy thing to do, and Kay was like, I'm doing it, and we made it Kay's Hot Meats.
Marty used to joke that Kay's Hot Meats was his only successful food venture.
She even brought her mom down to the club.
We always had people who loved that we had 3 generations in the snack bar because their own families had ostracized them. And here we are with a mom, a grandma, and a daughter.
You have that kind of family niche, and you have an owner that is got his family that's participating, and having Kay come down and hang out with all of us and be a part of their world was also amazing.
It was really nice to see that symbiotic relationship between Marty's real family and his adopted family of Tracks.
He made a safe space for so many people at a time when there just wasn't one, and was completely okay with it at a time when just that wasn't the mindset.
We know what Tracks is. It's more than just a building. It's more than just a nightclub. Marty allowed and loved to include all of us as being a part of the family.
You know, we know that about 40% of the homeless youth population identify as LGBTQ, and it's often because they're rejected by their families when they come out as an LGBTQ person.
You can't imagine how many people have been through this club and, you know, it's changed their life. It gave them a place to be. So it was really a home for people for years. It was a second home. Some people it was their first home.
I did have a few friends that lived in Tracks. You know, it was always funny to see, like, you know, they're coming from behind the DJ booth and that's their bed back there. But he allowed us to have actual beds. I mean, he bought these things so that people were comfortable here to live and enjoy and get back on their feet and get where they need to be.
I just came out and my family had pretty much rejected me. And so I moved to Denver with a backpack. And I heard that a new club was opening. They were looking for a manager, and they went back and forth about the experienced person or this 19-year-old kid, and they offered me the position. I remember Marty told him, you know, this kid looks like he can do it. I ended up managing it until 2013. And I went and got my education, which I never did. I was a street kid, so the club is all I knew. He built me up to be able to have the confidence to go and apply and do that and do it sober and understand that I didn't have to be a club kid anymore. And what he was teaching me, I was going to be able to go and make a career of someday. It would take me a really long time, but I did it. And he came and saw me and he was so happy that I did it. My own family didn't come.
I think I will remember Marty as one of those folks throughout, you know, the history of LGBT rights. There's always these maybe silent folks in the back of the room who were silently providing critical support and help to our community. They may not get all the credit, all the glory about how far our community has come in terms of acceptance and inclusion in today's society, but it's those silent voices that helped really pave the way for what we're seeing in the country today.
My mom and sister and Marty and I were on a vacation in Washington, D.C. And we went past this huge building and it was in a crappy part of town, like don't get out of your car part of town, right? And Marty kept circling around the building and he said, you know, this would make a fabulous Tracks. And he said, I can see in the front here, I could see a big awning and I can see limos pulling up. And 18 months later, there was an awning in front of that building and there were limos pulling up.
And Marty saw that vision and he did it in a big, bold way. He put it front and center. You know, he was a businessman, of course, but he also understood that he was creating an opportunity for a marginalized group of people to have an opportunity to have a better life. You didn't know if you were going to be able to get a job. That wasn't a time where you could go out on dates to restaurants or go to other clubs.
A lot of Congress people who were closet gays would go to Tracks because they felt they didn't have to worry about coming out of the closet, so to speak. And there were many, many people like that, you know.
We were out in Chicago for a weekend together, and we're sitting there, and it's a all-you-can-eat fancy brunch, and the waiter comes over and introduces himself, and we're talking with him. Marty said, oh, we're from Washington, and you know, and he has a club there. And the guy said, oh, I used to work on Capitol Hill as a page. And then Marty went on to explain to him how he owned Tracks DC. And about 5 minutes later, the young man came out with 2 bottles of champagne and gave them to us and said, this is on me. Without your Tracks Club in DC, I wouldn't be alive today. I think that story is probably multiplied by hundreds of times.
Marty and my father had big ambitions for Tracks, for the brand, for the gay community. They envisioned expanding beyond New York and Tampa. They were going to go to cities all over the country, eventually all over the world. They wanted to do gay retirement homes with the Tracks brand, gay hotels with the Tracks brand, gay cruises with the Tracks brand. They formed a publicly traded company just to launch all of this and raise some money, and then HIV hits.
It was hideous, of course. I mean, I would keep a photo of each one of those guys after they were gone. And at some point, the frames at my house were over 100. In the Reagan administration, they couldn't even say the word AIDS. Just to get information out, just to educate gay men about what was going on, we had to raise money on our own in the community to print flyers.
It was a really, really tragic time. And I know that for Marty, it was really important to do whatever he could to support the gay community. I would say most of the employees that I knew in DC have passed away.
All those allies from the 80s that thought it was really cool to have a gay friend, well, now they weren't coming anymore.
We would have people call us up and say, I'm thinking of going to Tracks, but I want to make sure that the bartenders all wear rubber gloves. And I say, I'm sorry, you really don't want to come to Tracks. This is not the place for you.
We would hold many AIDS fundraisers and events for the AIDS research and the gay community. So that's again part of the generosity that Marty expressed, and I really give him credit for that.
He had a number of employees who unfortunately died of AIDS, and he would take care of their medical expenses. He'd make sure that their paychecks would go to their families, so they wouldn't be left with nothing.
Having someone like Marty to help spearhead the Denver community specifically and understanding what that was and how we can do it through education at the club, through bringing in Denver Health to help do checks. If somebody were to find out that they were HIV positive, there were people here to help them get through that. I think that it really helped show, again, that we're not just a nightclub, that we're an empire of giving and caring for other people.
Rhino was it wasn't even Rhino at the time. It was just warehouses upon warehouses upon warehouses. Like, there was nothing going on down here. And so Tracks was kind of like the impetus for the growth in this neighborhood.
You know, we forget that Exto and Tracks was one of the first establishments in the Rhino area that people went to as a destination.
I think it was integral to this block, this area, everything coming alive.
You know, it was one of the most polluted zip codes in America. And, you know, I think it takes a vision, and Marty definitely had a vision to be able to come into a neighborhood and uplift it.
I met Marty at a community meeting, and I didn't know who he was, and he was sitting in the back, and I thought he was just this curmudgeon neighbor. And then I got the opportunity to really understand who he was, and I just began to fall in love with Marty. He has an incredible knowledge and social justice understanding of the neighborhood.
Wherever Tracks is, things grow around it. Things become happy around it, are successful around it.
And so, you know, we have Marty really to celebrate, and his partners to celebrate and thank for the difference they've made in Rhino and helping to revitalize and also to make it a destination for people.
He was not demonstrative in his love. We didn't hug. We didn't end calls with "we love you." None of that. But he was there, and you knew he was there.
He couldn't really put in his own words how the gratitude he felt towards Kay and her daughters and what that meant to him his entire life. Also with his sister and his nieces, he was really glad to connect with them again.
Marty loved the time with Kay and the girls when they traveled. I mean, they traveled the world. They saw so much. He never really wanted to show that kind interior, but I think he enjoyed the comfort of traveling and being with Kay and the girls all the time.
Family had a broader term for Marty too. I mean, Marty really thought Tracks and the employees and the customers were really his family too. And that's how he treated them, and that's what he believed.
He became someone that I looked up to and counted on, and I will miss him very much.
Unfortunately, he will not be around to attend my 100th birthday, but he will be there in spirit, and I will miss him greatly.
So Marty, know that you have left a footprint, not just on Denver, not just on Colorado, but on LGBTQ people all across this country.
Thank you for what you've done for Denver and for the state of Colorado, and for the kindness you showed all of us.
Goodbye, Marty. We're going to miss you, and I want to thank you for everything you did across your career that helped so many generations of gay people be comfortable with who they are. To think that we can now live in a state that has a governor that's gay, really generations of gay people have a debt of gratitude for everything that you did to help make sure that we know that Colorado for all means us too.
You're the most original and authentic human being that I ever worked with, and just really a blessing in my life.
Goodbye, Coach, and may there be many more games up where you are today.
Marty, my brother from a different mother, I love you.
I owe you a big debt of gratitude.
Marty, you changed my life, and for that I'll be forever grateful for him.
I hope that wherever you are, you're looking down on us and you're proud of us.
I hope you're having fun, Marty. You're having a big meal and you're on a cruise ship somewhere enjoying yourself. I miss you.
You were the father to me when my own father didn't even want me. I hope I can live the rest of my life making you proud.
You've really meant so much to me, so much to my family.
I wish we had more time together.
Goodbye, Marty. We love you.
I will always love and think of you with a fond place deep in my heart.
I love you, Marty. You'll forever be missed.
Rest well, my friend.
Goodbye, Marty. I love you. I miss you.
Marty, from Grace and myself, we say goodbye and we miss you.
You taught me how to be an honorable person, an honorable husband, an honorable father, an honorable friend, and an honorable business partner. And I can only hope that I will continue to live as honorably as you taught me to and as you expected me to.
I'm just going to tell you, you better be there at the door when I get there.
Thank you for an unbelievably creative lifetime friendship.